And welcome on in, everybody, to the Check Your Brain podcast here on Patreon. And I am Tony Mazur. It's not Patreon, but it's also going out for free here on Wednesday. If you're listening to this for free, it's on Wednesday, the 14th. And so thanks for checking it out and being a part of this podcast. Hope you can subscribe over on Patreon at patreon.com/Tony Mazur. Just $5 a month for all these podcasts. But I'm doing a free week here. And my guest this week, we are putting this out there for free, is Adam Nutter. He's a comedian. He's got a couple of podcasts, Porcupine Podcast, Cult of Us Podcast, and is a guest on a bunch of others. He's a comedian. You're libertarian, but you've also had the harder edge libertarian, or not the lolbertarians, as we like to call them. And that's one thing I wanted to talk about. And by the way, thank you again for coming on today.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
So last year we talked back, I think in early November, I had you on, maybe late October, right around election time. And
yeah,
boys, things have changed. And I think in a lot of ways for the better, because the scabs are really getting ripped off of what's going on in society now.
Yeah, dude, it's wild. I mean, so much changing. I guess we'll call it a year. I mean, we'll call it a year's time, but society's getting worse.
Yes.
Our country is failing. Our own party is fucking collapsing, the Libertarian Party, because of fucking haters in the movement. It's not going great. But guys like you and me and gals like us, we're the ones who have to fucking stand up to it, because if we don't, who the fuck's gonna, right? So I mean, we can't let them do what they want. We can't let them, this is how I was telling my wife recently. I was like that's like true evil. Like what the government's doing and like the Biden administration, like that's actual evil. Like mine, like, yeah, of course, murder is bad and stuff like that. But I'm like, when the average person thinks that like, oh, just, things go up and down. I go, no, this is all planned to take down the America as we know it. Like it just is.
The institutions of America that have carried us over, and not just America, but pre-America, predates America. And we're too, and that's what I've talked about a lot about the pillars of communism is, we talked for the last 5-6 years about the taking down of statues, and they said it's just statues. What's the big deal taking down a statue? Well, what happens when you have a statue, whether it's a figurative or literal statues, it's rebuilt with something that's it's not as good. I mean, because it started as the Robert E. Lee statue. Oh, what's wrong with that? And Jefferson Davis, and then it got to the point where they're taking down anything from Abe Lincoln, who was, by the way, an actual fascist, for people who want to know about it.
Actual piece of shit. One of the worst presidents we ever had. If you tell a lefty that, their fucking heads explode. Like, what's a slave? And you're like, you're fucking stupid. Like, read one book.
Do you know how many journalists, how many people he actually imprisoned and had killed? But people don't want to talk about that because we have this vision. And this is the one big thing I've noticed in the last couple of years during the COVID stuff, is that we have this childhood superhero version of America, and we're seeing it, and I wanted to talk about that because in the last year we've had a couple other things. From the good stuff of the COVID regime has gotten figured out, the bad stuff is we're still sending billions to Ukraine with this war that I don't even know if it's an actual war. I don't even know if there's an actual conflict going on, if this isn't just a Hollywood stage thing. But that's what we've had now. And then you've had Ben Stiller, and you've had all these actors and musicians going like, I stand with Ukraine. You don't even know what it's about. But again, it's that infantilized version of America, and that we're the good guys facing the bad guys. And it's because everybody has this reading level of like a fifth grader now, and that we have to look at the good guys and the bad guys. And that's one thing that's carried over here in 2022 that's really bothered me, that you're like, how aren't more people understanding what is really going on? That if you want to find actual Nazis, go to Ukraine. Don't go to your neighbor who has the Gadsden flag in their front yard. Go to fucking Ukraine, where they actually have literal Nazis.
Yeah. By the way, just got an email. My other podcast got pushed back to 5, so I have more time with you now. So that's good. Yeah, no, that's the thing. Is like, again, especially like the right, like the GOP people, like they're useless, right? Like the right's useless. They don't stand for what they believe in, even though I don't agree with all they believe in, right? Like obviously we defer on some stuff, but I would say most libertarians, if you're honest with libertarianism, you align more with the right than you do with the left. It just, I would say, because economics and stuff like that, right?
That's what our friend Pete Quinones says, the 10,000 Liechtensteins. You start from the ground up, and it can't be left wing. It has to be right wing if you're going to start in a city council, a mayor's race, school boards, anything.
Yeah, no, it has to be. But then you see like this just hardcore push for this left narrative. Like, again, the Ukraine war. If you ask anyone with Ukrainian flag in their profile on Twitter, they're like, hey, man, do you know anything about the Donbass region, or like the fact that NATO just pushed up to the Russian border with missiles? And again, I'm not saying like this isn't like a defense against Russia, which is what they want to say what we're doing, right? They want to turn around and be like, you guys are pro-Russia. It's like, no,
no,
I'm pro-honesty. And I'm saying that how would you feel if Russia just started building missile bases on the Mexican and Canadian border, faced at their shit towards New York, Chicago, LA, DC, Texas, and we're like, what? We're not doing anything.
No.
It's like you'd be like, hey, man, I'm a little concerned about the missiles here, right? It's like, but no one wants to admit that, just like the Lincoln stuff. It's like, hey, man, no, slavery is bad. No, it's also bad forcing someone to fight a war for you. That's also slavery. But if you say that, boom, fucking lefties' heads explode. Because they're like, well, it's for a good cause. Then you go fight the war.
It's also just blue-pilled people in general. And blue pill doesn't necessarily mean liberal, progressive, whatever. You get a lot of kind of normies that are boomer cons, the neocons, that when you finally give them a little bit more evidence, you tell them something that's going on, some of them will retain it. Others will just say you're a conspiracy theorist. But of course, as we all know about conspiracy theories, you just wait a few months and then the conspiracy theory becomes reality. I mean, think about I forgot who was talking about this, about the Kennedy assassination, is that if you said in 1964 that there were all these conspiracies in place and it was because of this and this as to why Kennedy was assassinated, people would just not talk to you anymore. They would say, this guy's just a wackadoodle. But over time, it's the acceptable conspiracy theory that it wasn't just Oswald with the magic bullet. It's all these other things. So eventually this stuff does seep out. It's not quick enough in our culture for things that are getting put in place. And that, we're going to send 40 more billion over to Ukraine right now. And you still have people with Ukrainian flags because they don't know what's actually going on. And the problem is, I don't think any of us really know what's going on. We just have a bullshit alert that's just sounding off right now.
Right. Well, that's the thing is like you and I, it's right. Because you and I are both like, we don't know what's going on. So you know what we shouldn't do? Send trillions of dollars to Ukraine.
Yeah.
And I mean, the obvious.
Or sending troops to fight Russia right now. That's what we want to do. Because that's the last thing we would want to do. But I see all these people who are 20 years ago, right after, because we're recording this the day after the September 11th, you had all these people on either side that said, oh, we need to fight for this. And then what we've kind of noticed over time is, no, we don't really need to fight. We don't need to go over there and kick somebody's ass and put a boot in somebody's ass. That's not the case anymore. But there are people, and blue pill people are like, maybe we should send nukes over and fight Russia.
I know, it's crazy.
You really want to go down that road?
It's fucking nuts. It's like, again, the same people who want to disarm you at home and make you not be able to protect yourself want to send all the guns over there, though. So they could do it. We can't.
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of that, hey, man, I know, we shut the economy down because of COVID and you have a family of 5 and we're literally forcing you to not be able to go to work. But to make up for that, here's $1,200. Oh, well, Ukraine got 40 billion. I know, right? That sucks for you guys. Anyway, support our war. You're racist. It's like
there's nothing you can do about it. Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay. Luckily, I'm financially well off. Like, I'm not rich. I'm not a millionaire at all. But like me and my wife are good. Right? So like, I'm truly like, I feel bad for people who like had to severely struggle through COVID and then watch the same government turn around and give billions of dollars to fight a proxy. Like, it actually makes me sick to my stomach. Like, truly sick to my stomach. Like, this is my country. Like, this is the country that I think of when I hear the flag. Like, football started yesterday, right?
Yep.
I heard 1,000 national anthems yesterday watching Red Zone. And like on the anniversary of 9/11, which, thanks CIA and the deep state and all that shit. But it's like, when I hear the national anthem, I think of like what we're founded on, not like what we're told we're founded on. I think of like the actual, like, fuck tyranny, fuck England, fuck your government. It's about individual freedom and sovereignty. That's what I think of when I hear the flag and when I see the flag and hear the anthem. Now it's like propagandized so much to just like, fucking suck the military's dick. We have to go kill everybody. Fucking bomb things. Like, da, 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 like fucking war. It's like, dude, no, that's not what we're about.
It's interesting when you talk about the military industrial complex, a term that I don't think anybody had used that term since Eisenhower until Trump did it.
Yeah.
And it is real. It's absolutely real. But when did that change? When did it change from the Bush, Cheney, Rumsfeld, rah, let's go to war to now the left is cheering on war. Now the left is okay with troops. And when did the right become the anti-war people? It's weird how things have really flip-flopped. And it was in the same thing with when you talk about political correctness. It was always the stuffy conservatives.
Yes.
And then it seems sometime about 15 years ago that things turned around. It was after Janet Jackson's tit popped out that it was like, and then all of a sudden Don Imus says something that some people deemed racist. Then the left gets all butthurt about everything. So it just seemed in the last 20 years, the forces have shifted where everything that you thought about the anti-war people are actually pro-war and the anti-business people are actually very pro-business and vice versa. It's really odd how things have kind of turned around.
I say this all the time. The progressive left is the most racist people on the planet. It's not even close. Progressive white liberals are the most racist, condescending fucking cunts I've ever met in my life. And social media shows you that, right? Like, okay, I just got a temporary 3-day suspension from Reddit, because I was watching, I follow subreddit crazy fucking videos. And I don't know if you noticed this lately, but there has been a lot of fucking videos going around about like fights at airports.
Yes.
Like, I don't know why, but there's been an abundance of them lately. And there was another one, and I went, always the same. As in, like, it's always at the fucking baggage claim. It's always at a fucking airport, these fights. Why is it happening? They said I was being racist.
Oh.
Because in the video, by the way, it was just a bunch of black chicks and white chicks fighting each other. But you couldn't tell if it was like white versus black or it was just chaos.
It's just animal behavior is what it is. It doesn't matter who it is. It's animal behavior.
And I wasn't even referencing even that. I was just saying, like, always the same with the fucking airport fights, always a baggage claim. So I'm like, oh, you're racist. You're projecting your thoughts on me. So the Reddit mods are like, well, black people are animals. I go, yeah, I know. You said that. You just said that by banning me for 3 days.
It's the biggest.
I never intended expectations.
That to be. Yes. It's if you notice this, because with your podcast, I don't know if you play any of these videos, but I've done that where I'm doing research and I want to do a podcast in the morning. So the night before I'll save a couple of videos that I found on Twitter of those airport fights or a fight outside of a bar or whatever. And then by the morning I go to try to play it and it's already banned. It's already taken off. So why are they taking it off? Oh, well, they'll say it's because of violence. It's they don't want a narrative being shown that it's like, oh, we're seeing a pattern here of these fights that are happening. And if you bring it up, you're the racist one. You're like, no, I'm it's just like the libs of TikTok. All we're doing was we're just putting a mirror up and saying, I mean, that's what's going on right now. But the internet it's like the internet is deleting itself.
Yeah. It's everything's racist, but them.
Mm-hmm.
You like people are shitting on the She-Hulk show because it's dog shit, and they're like, "Fucking, that's because you hate women." I go, I can name 30 female characters that's universally loved across like Marvel, Star Wars, and everything. It's because you guys just push an agenda and shit. That's what every social media is. That's what the entertainment industry is. And like I give the left this, I say it all the time. They were brilliant in infiltrating culture, and the right didn't think it was important, and that's where they fucked up. And there's no going. They'll never get it back. They'll never get it back.
They have a 100-year start. That's the thing is that as much as I've talked about this on my podcast of where you saw what happened last year in Loudoun County and a lot of the parents who were very progressive and they said, yeah, what? No, you do. We have a say in what our kids are saying, can learn and everything in schools. You can't say that the schools can deal with that. So you have people are waking up, but when you have the progressives have infiltrated everything in our culture and the government. I mean, when did the FBI get politicized? Oh, I don't know. Since the very beginning, everything has been politicized. Everything, all of these factors are against you. Yes, I like the fact that people are fighting back, but understand it's going to be a long, arduous uphill battle here.
No, I'm just sick of, we all are, but like the constant lies and like, again, Remember the Stop Asian Hate thing from a few months ago?
Oh, yeah.
Like a year ago. They were trying to spin that as a white nationalist problem. And then you look at the numbers and it's like, 85% are black on Asian crime. And they got shut down immediately. Because they couldn't keep, because all the videos,
China virus.
Because here's the truth. And here's the fucking truth. 85% of the videos you saw were a black guy knocking out an Asian dude. You can't spin that to make it a white guy. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, hey, man, everything isn't a fucking racial issue. Some people are just fucking assholes. Like, people do asshole shit. Like, I understand what you're doing. You're lying and you're trying to fucking spin a narrative. But, like, you can't. It's just impossible to make everything about white guy bad.
Well, speaking of white guy bad and assholes, because I want to get to a little bit more of the Libertarian Party and the Mises Caucus takeover in a lot of these races, and it's a good thing to see. But let's get to more negative stuff, because that Joe Biden speech from 2 weeks ago was, I've never heard now, let's be honest here about who Joe Biden is. Joe Biden, this is a lifetime achievement award. He's completely, basically gone in his head right now. He needs the blanket over his legs like he's FDR in the wheelchair. He is at that point of, and what it is it's a lifetime achievement award for being a very good Democrat. And when I say that, he was a very good Democrat in whatever direction the Democrat Party was, where they were more tougher on crime about 25, 30 years ago.
He put more black people away. Yeah, he put more black people away than anybody else.
Exactly. Next to Kamala Harris, of course.
Well, yeah, you're right.
And then when the median of the Democrat Party is now swinging more away from the more centrist conservative Democrats to the AOCs and the Ilhan Omars, well, that's where he is now. So he's up on stage 2 weeks ago outside of Independence Hall in the optics, this red, horrible optics, but they're leaning into it. This isn't an accident right now.
Yes,
they're leaning into it, and they're basically using that plausible deniability of, the MAGA Republicans, but I can get along with more mainstream Republicans. Well, the only mainstream Republicans he's talking about are Bill Kristol, Liz Cheney,
Mitt
and
Romney,
others who are essentially Democrats.
McCain, exactly, rhinos. I mean, well, I said he looked like the general in the First Order in Star Wars when he was in the first movie, when he was like, "We're gonna go out there and we're gonna fucking defeat the rebellion." I was like that. And here's the other thing too. And again, fuck Trump, right? He sucks. But like, imagine Trump came out with the red background. Imagine what they'd say. They'd be like, literal Hitler. Yep. Fucking Holocaust 2's coming. All of this shit. And with them, they were like, what a fucking brilliant. It's like, it's fucking disgusting. And this is why, like, I could talk to people on the right. They're way more willing to listen to you. Way more, even with war stuff in the military and the police. Like, you could, not all of them, but the majority, you could sit down and be like, hey, man, the cops are actually bad. And they're like, well, why do you say that? And you could be like, well, I can show you 37 videos right now. Why? And then they can go into like the structure of the police and why privatization. And they'd be like, okay, they'll listen to you. I could be like, hey, man, the military is not great. And here's why. And they could be like, okay, tell a progressive anything they don't want to hear. And it's nope, you're this, and that. I've become, as we go more deeper down this rabbit hole, I disassociate myself with anybody from that side. And I look at them as the enemy. Like, and like, I'm not doing that. You're making me do that.
Yes.
You're making me do that. You're making me, and that's all on purpose. This is all on purpose. But you're making me radicalize against you harder because of how hard you're coming against our children and us. Like, I don't know if you saw starting in Chicago, starting January 1st. Did you see this shit?
Depends.
They are January 1st, 2023 in Chicago. They second-degree murder down. They will book you and release you. No bail. Second-degree murder down. So every felony from there down, including misdemeanors, it goes worse than that though. If someone just walks into your home and it's like, I live here now, and you call the cops, they can't remove him from your home. They could give him a ticket.
It's the Soros DAs.
It's the actual purge. And it's like, you know what? They're trying to this is my predicament. This is my prediction, not predicament, but prediction. They're trying to start a civil war, and they're gonna say it's right-wing radicals who are fighting back. Because eventually, you think some fucking retired JSOC guy is gonna fucking put up with that? No, he's gonna put 40 bullet holes in this dude's chest, and they're gonna go, the radicalized right, they're just killing people.
It's provoking. I said it right after the speech. I said it's like the scene in Goodfellas when Billy Batts tells Tommy to go get his fucking shine box.
Well, we know what happened to Billy Batts.
But then what ended up happening is that Tommy ended up getting killed. And it was because you killed a made man. And that's a very interesting situation, because what they're doing is they're trying to provoke. When they talk about the MAGA Republicans, he's not just talking about Matt Gaetz. He's not just talking about Marjorie Taylor Greene. He's not just talking about Donald Trump or anybody associated with his cabinet. He's talking about you and me. And when
we didn't even vote for the guy.
Yeah, neither did I. I didn't vote either time. But because I don't abide by his agenda and what the Democrats' agenda is, and I didn't fall in line with the COVID regime. I didn't fall in line with the military-industrial regime, anything like that. I'm now considered a MAGA Republican. And by the way, Mitt Romney would be a MAGA Republican if there are certain things he didn't disagree with Joe Biden. So if there's a thing where Mitt Romney's like, that was disgusting, well, now he's casting it outside that Overton window. And what he essentially did, and I use essentially because I don't want to say he truly declared war on 74 million Americans. Probably more than that. You're talking upwards of 100 million Americans. Yeah. Of somebody that has an American flag in their front yard. Somebody that moved to the suburbs because they're like, hey guys, the crime's getting kind of bad where I was, so I'm moving out into the countryside. Or somebody who said, hey, you know what? I should probably get a gun just in case to protect myself. He's talking about you. He's talking about those people. And I've never seen a speech, when Trump would attack them, he would attack the media. He would call them the enemy of the people. When George
Nailed that one.
Yeah, exactly. When George W. Bush 20 years ago is giving a speech on Al-Qaeda. Now we all know, and Bush the criminal, and George W. Bush, the W stands for war crimes. But when he's talking about that, you're hearing about terrorists and you're thinking brown people, turbans, anything like that, Middle East, everything across the world. Take that speech and give it to Joe Biden. And he's talking about you and me. He's talking about everyday Americans. Hillary Clinton mentioned this about extremism of any kind, which of course that's code word if people really look into you and me. So what they're doing is they're trying to provoke another January 6th response. They're saying, oh, well, what if they indict Trump? Then there's going to be riots in the streets. There really is not going to be riots in the streets. It's not going to happen. You might have some lunatic.
The feds will start them.
Yeah, they will. Yes, exactly.
Like the Patriot Front movement. Anybody who watches that and goes, this is real. Hey, man, you're retarded. Like, you're actually retarded. Like, if you look at that and go, there's probably 5 guys in there who got tricked and the rest of them are feds. And I say, look at the Whitmer plot. 12 out of the 15 were feds. Yep. And then 2 guys got arrested, 1 guy got out. It's like it's a completely federal run operation. How and like this is the annoying part is these people are so brainwashed by the media and their politicians that I could say that to somebody and they'd be like, no. And like, what do you say to that? Like, okay, I guess I made it up. It's so hard to like, well, here I can show, and they're like, no, CNN didn't say it. So you're like, all right, man, I don't know.
That's what's amazing when you think of January 6th and what they have done in the last year and a half of making that thing that was worse than 9/11. Now we can have all of our conspiracies. We can hear all about what happened 9/11. The truth is there were thousands of people who died. On January 6th, there was 1 person who died. And I'm seeing tweets of people saying that January 6th was worse because it was an attack on our democracy by our own people. And I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, no, it wasn't. So I'm wearing my Staten Island hat. I'm from Staten Island, New York. I like that day, obviously for a lot of us, but for anybody in New York, especially, I would say, or right around DC area, is vivid. I was 14 years old.
Yeah, you and I are about the same age.
Yeah, I was 13 years old. I was a sophomore in high school. My friends' parents, people on my block came home fucking 12 hours later, covered in fucking human remains and dust. Like traumatized. My friends' parents died in my school. Like I know, luckily no one I personally knew, like really well knew died, but like, as a child, you're watching people live jump from buildings. You're watching these things collapse. You're watching the planes go in. You're watching people scream and panic and run. And like 3,000 people were incinerated that day. And like, I remember the smoke. I could see the smoke from the towers from my school. Like you could see it. And like, there was chaos, dude. I mean, legitimate chaos. And for you to sit there and tell me that January 6th was worse than that day, hey, man, catch that shit in front of me. I'll fucking knock you the fuck out. I'm very serious. Like, that's such an insult. And again, that shit was an inside job. I'm not saying that was like an attack on that was fucking the CIA and the deep state, 100%. But still, those people who died were innocent people. They were fucking everyday Americans who got incinerated for fucking war and money in the Middle East. That's what fucking happened. And you'll never convince me otherwise. All right. I watched fucking Building 7 fall for no reason. We all did. And
never forget, except for Building 7.
Except for Building 7. So for anybody to be like January 6th, especially if you're a fucking New Yorker, eat a fucking dick, dude. Honestly, eat a fucking dick. You're a fucking enemy of the fucking people if you fucking really believe that. Truly eat a fucking dick and kill yourself. That's honestly, I'll never fucking forget that day, dude.
9/11 and everything else shows how the federal government and all of these areas, they know how expendable the American people are. Yeah. And that's what they're able to do. So whether it's Al Qaeda and bin Laden and this plot, or whatever you believe with it, understand that there were thousands of people who were killed. And what has been our response to it in the last 20 something years? What we did is we had a Patriot Act because we're going to spy on, we're going to catch them terrorists, all those brown people. What ended up happening? They just tapped our phones. They tapped our phones because if we said anything, and when that phone tap came out back in 2012, 2013, where they were going after people who were part of a Tea Party movement, or they donated to like Hillsdale College or something, or like a conservative college. You go, wait a second, I thought this Patriot Act was supposed to be to get the terrorists. If anything, the only terrorists they were able to find were, once again, just like with the Whitmer case, Fed operated ones where they would go up to some poor Muslim kid and say like, boy, this country's bad country. I kind of like it. And then they convince them over time, like, suicide bombings in the Middle East, they're sometimes justified. Have you heard that one? And that's where they were able to, and then see, oh, look at this. We caught a potential terrorist right now. Let's give each other a champagne cocktail party over it. But again, people aren't figuring this stuff out. So if you're not reading between the lines and looking at the coded language, we're bound to be hit again. We're bound to be attacked by our own government again, and there's nothing we can do about it.
No, I was reading this thread somewhere, and this is from 2000, and I think it was 18 or 19, so before COVID. And this guy was saying, and like he was like, back in 94, he's like, I was a kid. He's like, and this kind of memory just popped back up in my head. But he's like, I was with my father and his friend, and we were in these underground. He's like, I can only describe them as like underground slab cities. And people were like, what? And then he went into fucking detail about. He's like, listen, I don't know too much. I was a kid, and I also I'm not willing to share what I do know for safety. But he's like, but he gave like this very detailed like. There's massive underground cities that are like since 94, he's saying, probably before that, with like all this shit, whatever. That's interesting as itself. But then he mentions, he's like, it's all a control tactic to get you to take the vaccine. He said vaccine. This is 2018. Wow. And it's and you're like, oh, that meant nothing back then, right? But like what he was saying was essentially like, something's coming down the pipe. I don't really know what it is. He's like, this is, I'm paraphrasing here, but he's like, he's like, I don't know what it is. He's like, it's going to be something that's going to disrupt our lives, but not like an asteroid impact. He's like, something's going to like just fuck up the world. And he's like, then something else down the line's coming. He's like, I don't know what it is. He's like, I'm just telling you what I've heard and what my dad, and it was very interesting. And then you go, oh shit, that was 2018. He said this.
And just fast forward a couple of years, because you have
vaccine and stuff. So it's like, I don't know, dude. I mean, I don't know. Everything, like, just don't trust anything, keep an open mind for everything, and just fucking keep your family and you safe. That's my advice, honestly.
There was that story that came out I mentioned on my podcast on Monday, that BYU found that there was no fan that was yelling the N-word at a Duke player. And the way I see it is that I saw all of course, the left-wing media, and a little redundant there, but they all jumped on this case of like, how dare BYU attacking a black volleyball player. And it comes out that there's no evidence that ever happened, that anybody said at the interview. So many people, they're like, yeah, no, this didn't happen. So she either thought she heard something but it wasn't the case, or she's lying. Right. So in cases like Jussie Smollett and cases like Covington Catholic and all these others, why don't some people just wait for facts to come out? Wait for a little bit more information.
You know
but
that.
We have to go with that narrative.
Right.
And that's the sad part about it is those same people who are telling you to trust the government are the first people to hear an initial story, run with that. And then when you're given additional evidence and saying, hey, by the way, that a lot of that didn't happen. In fact, all of it didn't happen. They're like, no, I heard what I heard. Really? Okay. And like you said, it's hard to reason with those people. It's to the point where, I've noticed over time, over the last probably 5-6 years, the only new friends I've made, none of them are progressive. None of them are on the left. And it's weird.
Yeah. Well, you do comedy. We both do comedy. I mean, it's like, obviously it's unavoidable because comedy draws fucking lefties, right? So like, yeah.
Lunatics, yes.
So like, yeah, like I meet new people. I wouldn't say I'm friends with them. I'm friendly because I'm not an asshole either. Like, right? Like, it's like I'm not going to be like an asshole because like you believe, but it's like once you start pushing your shit, though, I'm going to push back. That's the thing. Like, it's like also to go back to the racial thing with BYU. You're a Browns fan, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
When Myles Garrett smashed fucking Mason Rudolph in the head with the helmet, he's like, "Well, that's because he said a racial slur," and all of his O-line was like, "That's bullshit. You're fucking lying." He's like, "All right." It's like it's because you had other black guys defend Mason Rudolph.
Like, because there's no proof. You don't think that there's not one left-wing journalist who would have found that audio, would have plastered that out there. Of course. I was at that game. I was working that. I was down there in the locker room when that happened. And that was never, by the way, that was never discussed except for one black reporter, Josina Anderson. And she said, Myles doesn't react that way. He must have heard something that he didn't want to hear. But no one thought that at the time. And then that narrative the next day came out that maybe he heard the N-word. And then in Cleveland's the only place where anyone said, yeah, Mason Rudolph must have said it. Like, his whole team is black. Why would he drop an N-bomb?
Imagine that. Imagine that your friends, your fucking teammates, guys you grew up playing with, but I'm going to say it this one time to this one guy around all these other black guys, and no one's going to fucking knock me out.
They gave me an N-word pass.
Yeah, it's so fucking stupid, dude. It's just so fucking stupid. And that's what I'm saying. You see that shit and hear that shit and you go, fuck you. Like, fuck you and your fucking bullshit lies, and you're trying to split the fucking country. Again, focus on race so you don't focus on what's going on above that.
Yeah, you got to distract everybody. Right. You got to distract everybody that what was going on. I mean, think about what happened during 2020 is that I was joke about it. I have it in my act where I talk about how we stopped caring about COVID enough to focus on racism, which is how I was able to have my wedding. So I got married in 2020. And it was during those couple of weeks where we said, fuck COVID. Right. We care more about the summer of George and George Floyd. And so we're like, all right, well, I had my bachelor party and it wasn't affected by COVID, and neither was the wedding. And then we pivoted right back after that as much as they could squeeze out of that race narrative that happened. But that that time, that like late May, early June of 2020, distracted a lot of other people for what they were planning next with COVID. And that what ended up happening is that's when the lockdowns ended up having to get lifted in a lot of places because they couldn't justify, hey, you can't leave your house unless you're protesting for George Floyd. So some places ended up reopening at that time. But then when the riots started slowing down, that's when they ramped the COVID stuff back up. Right. They're like, wait a second, I thought COVID numbers and like flu numbers and colds and anything go down in the summertime, and then it ramps back up in the fall, because it's seasonal like everything else on the fucking planet. There's always something nefarious. So if we're distracted by one thing over here, it's because they're planning something else over here. And once people start figuring that out, maybe we'll be a better society, but I don't see it changing anytime soon.
Yeah, people are gonna think I'm crazy, but like, have you the Ozymandias effect? You know what I'm talking about from The Watchmen?
No, I don't.
Okay, so in not the movie they changed a little bit, but in the novel, The Watchmen, it takes place in the 80s during the Cold War, peak of the Cold War, when we were both on Russian, US was on like, this close to nuclear war with each other all the time.
Allegedly.
Right. So Ozymandias in the book, he's a hero, he on his own decides, I have to unify the planet because we can't have nuclear disaster here, right? So how do I do that? Well, I'm going to teleport interdimensional giant aliens here in major cities. They're going to kill millions of people. I'm going to teleport them away. And then we're going to have to go, hey, guys, we can't fight each other anymore. There's a bigger threat out there. We have to unify as one world government and one world military and one world bank to fight that evil. Now, why do I say that? Because if you ever heard of Project Bluebeam?
I've heard of it, yeah.
For anyone who's not familiar with that, it's people think that there's a military thing where they're going to fake an alien attack. And if you, again, like you said, read between the lines, pay attention for the So since 1947, the Roswell incident, the U.S. government has adamantly denied the existence of any alien activity until 4 years ago when they went, oh, by the way, we're lying. Here's all the stuff we have. Why?
Yeah.
Why do that? I don't know. Maybe to build up the alien narrative more so you could fucking bomb something and be like, fucking aliens did it. Do you see what they could do with drones now? Like with like the fucking in the sky, like for the Super Bowl and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
Like high-tech drone shows. You could fake people out. It can be done. So like it's I know that sounds crazy, but it's not. If you well, they did 9/11. They did fucking the Gulf of Tonkin. They did the Lithuania probably. They did fucking this and that. World War II.
Northwoods.
Which didn't happen, right? But that was 100% a real plan.
Mm-hmm.
And then you look at World War II, right? You had we didn't want to get involved in the war. The people, FDR did, and the government did because money.
Yeah.
And Australia goes, hey man, you know Japan's like building a pretty big navy to come after you guys, and we went, fuck you, Australia, shut up. We know, shut up. We're like, we know. Why do you think all of our good shit was away that day? Japan sent 2 ambassadors down to DC to effectively declare war on America. And for a week, we pretended we couldn't find Japanese translators. Like, Incredible. It's just, and then again, all of our good shit's away from Pearl. We sacrificed 2,000 guys and 2 ships we didn't really need. We're like, oh, this is unavoidable. No, it wasn't. It was avoidable. 100% was avoidable. It's because you wanted to go to war. So that's a conspiracy in its day, right? That was essentially our own government false flagging us, kind of.
Well, that's how the FBI was created. Yeah. It was to monitor. People don't know this. This was during the Woodrow Wilson, again, probably the worst president we've ever had.
By the way, I just did an episode of the Porcupine with CJ Kilmer called Woodrow Wilson, the worst American president. I highly recommend everybody go listen to that.
I'll check that out.
Fucking, yeah. Because he did a 10-part series on Woodrow Wilson and what a piece of shit he was. So he was on for an hour. And he just tried to squeeze as much as he can in. And it's fucking, did you know? I didn't know this. When he was a governor in New Jersey, he implemented a eugenics program.
That doesn't surprise me. Again, none of this surprises me.
And then the guy he hired to head it wound up being, guess who? The lead eugenics guy in Germany a few years later.
Yes.
Wow. Now, he was a Jew, too. This guy was a Jew, and he was there, like, kind of like in Rogue One, the guy who built the Death Star. It's kind of like one of those things. But still, like, it doesn't matter. The fact is that, like, people don't know that shit, you know, and like they don't care about us. It's what I'm trying to say. They do not care about us. They will sacrifice you, me, your dog, your cat, your fucking kids to get their point across. That's it.
Wilson wanted to get us into war, get us into World War I. There was no reason for America to even come close to that side of the pond. We should just said, yeah, go ahead, kill each other. I don't care. But they did, and that's where that term government industrial or the military industrial complex came out. But Woodrow Wilson, during that time, during his administration, the FBI was created to spy on anti-war protesters of the time. So this has not been a new phenomenon where the politicization of all these 3-letter organizations like the CIA, FDA, CDC, FBI, all of these, they've all been politicized from the very beginning. And all of these are not to find, for foreign threats. This is domestic threats. They're all trying to, the whole reason was to vaccinate people. The whole reason is to spy on people. You just start to go on and you realize we, as I think human beings, are naturally sheep. I think there are some people, and that's why you notice that 2/3 of the colonists were in favor of being ruled by England, by Great Britain back in the day. And I think that's just part of our nature. We're not people who rock the boat. And you fast forward to 2021, how many people took the jab because they didn't want to get fired from their job, or they were trying to get a job and said, hey, I've got elderly relatives. I don't really want to do this, but my mom is in her 80s and everything. I guess I'm going to go have to do this. It's because people are just normally sheep and they don't look up the effects and what's going to happen tomorrow, what's going to happen next year, what's going to happen in 5 years. We just don't want to see the consequences. We're just like, I guess I'll do this. This is what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah. I always go, hey, do you guys ever heard of the Tuskegee experiments? No, look that shit up.
Yeah.
Like, what I'm saying? Like the government fucking infected the black population with syphilis to see what it would do, go and treat it. And then you go, well, they won't do that again. Yeah, they will.
Yeah.
Yeah, they fucking will, you idiot. Like, I'm so proud of myself that I never got that shit. Like, I was able, luckily, to fucking never have to get it, right? Because of my job and stuff. And like, yeah, but like, also that did hurt me. Because for a year and a half, I couldn't go to Philly or New York City to do comedy. So, I mean, but luckily the burbs were like, I don't give a fuck. Like, come out here. And that
was the best part. That's one of the white pills the last couple of years and I had so many people unfriend, like all those normies, and because they assumed I was being racist when I said move to the suburbs, buy a gun, and protect yourselves. And I'm saying black people too.
Everyone should.
Everybody. They made it seem like, oh, well, it's because it's all the black people. It's like, yes, there are people, but it doesn't matter. It's
irrelevant, right?
In the cities, it's just horrible. That's why you got to move out and start your life. You do whatever.
Because I live outside of Philly now. I live in Bucks County, but like in Philly, yesterday, in Mayfair, which is like Northeast Philly, a 17-year-old girl was walking her dog with a friend, and some guy just rolled by. I was like, blah, 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 killed her. And like, that's what you want to live. That's what you want to raise your fucking children. They do not protect you. You pay taxes to the police, who turn around and let you die.
Yeah.
We saw it in Uvalde. We saw it 1,000 other times. They'll kill you in 2 seconds, but they won't protect you.
Well, it's following orders is what it is. The police are nothing more than a government agency, just like the teachers union, the police union, the teachers union, they're all the same. And my dad was a cop. My grandfather was a cop. I know a lot of great police officers, but I also tell them at the same time, it's not necessarily, if you want to talk about systemic problems, that's one thing I do agree. There are systemic issues, but it's not the same. It's not what we're talking about.
Right.
I'm talking about the corruption that goes on. It's not so much this systemic racism. No. It's systemic corruption because they are a government agency. That's what it is. And when you have these cops, and I said this, I was pissed off about when you saw in 2021 and 2020, all these rabbis and these pastors who were holding services on weekends. And because they weren't social distancing, this made up 6 feet social distancing, or they weren't wearing a mask during their service, you were seeing them get arrested. And I'm like, what about all the cities that are being burned down right now and bail reform that they're able to just let them right out of jail? Like, that day,
deal with it.
They throw a Molotov cocktail through a courthouse, which is a government building. They're out that night and destroying more property. Yet you have somebody who walked into the Capitol has 4 years in prison. Yet you have somebody that was going up against Antifa has 4 years in prison. And you have all these other cases of people who weren't social distancing, weren't even read their Miranda rights and thrown in jail. And what it was, we're just following orders. That's what we were told to do. Really? Well, then fuck that then.
It's funny too, because when they first started blowing up the fucking Federal building, I was like, yeah, you go. That's the one you're supposed to go after. Right there.
The right idea.
And then it went right to like Joe's Sports Bar, and you're like, nah, now you lost me. That's it.
It went to the local hardware
stop attacking
store.
Government property and go to private property, I'm immediately against you. Immediately turn on it. You're right. It's like,
Adam, they have insurance.
Yeah, that's the funny thing too. No, they don't. Most major insurance companies will not offer riot coverage, and if they do, it's astronomically too expensive that the average person can't pay it.
No.
And again, you say that to people, and they go, "That's not true." No, it actually is true. No, Target could afford it. Walmart could afford it because they're a giant corporation.
Yeah.
But guess what? They weren't being destroyed.
No, Pizza Bar and Grill was destroyed.
Right. Sue's fucking bakery was destroyed. And now her life's ruined forever. Forever. She gets no money. Family ruined. Everything because some fucking piece of shit got killed by another piece of shit.
No.
It's like two pieces of shit help fucking turn this country into turmoil. It's fucking wild.
The destruction of private property and private rights of citizens in the last couple of years has just been blown off. And now in the time since we last did the podcast last year is that when we were talking a lot more about COVID, and luckily people are not listening to Fauci anymore. They're not listening.
He's like out of the spotlight.
Yeah, he's
like
basically
around,
done.
yeah.
And Rochelle Walensky, the head of the CDC, she's irrelevant. She's still telling people to take their boosters, even though there's no point. And they even said that they don't have enough time to test these for clinical tests.
Oh, the new one, didn't they just test on 8 mice and they're like, here you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was it. They don't have the time. We don't have the time to do this. So luckily in that time since we last podcasted, all the people who said, see, I got my vaccine because I will not get COVID. Then that turned into, thank God for my vaccine because I did get COVID. Right. And now everybody has been exposed to it at some point. I mean, I got it a little over a year ago. I got the Delta variant. I had it for 2 days and I was fine. And now most people have gotten Omicron, which is essentially you get the sniffles for a day and then maybe a cough for 2 days. That was it. So it opened up a lot of people going, wait a second. So I stayed in my home. And I didn't leave the house. I got DoorDash. I had to get my groceries delivered to me. I missed funerals. I missed weddings. I missed this and this for this. Mm-hmm. And some people have really kind of woken up to it. And a lot of people are saying, yeah, no, I'm not getting the booster. I've heard about this SADS you're trying to tell people, sudden adult death syndrome.
Yeah, but shut the fuck up. You have healthy soccer players dropping from myocarditis and shit. Okay. All of a sudden. And then you hear, but you already seen the articles now. Could climate change cause sudden? No, it can't.
The pivot,
no, it can't.
Yes.
Emphatically cannot. It's been hot all the time and it's been cold all the time. Suck my balls. It's fucking crazy.
It's
fucking
unbelievable.
Absolutely crazy.
I will say though, it charms me a little bit to know that this has all happened in a fairly short period of time. Because I figured when, let's say March or April 15th of 2020. So we're locked down for a month now. And I didn't foresee it to be opening up anytime soon. When they said 15 days to flatten the curve, anyone with a functioning prefrontal cortex knew it wasn't going to be 15
Well, dude,
days.
You, me, and every other fucking hardcore libertarian were like, that's it. All of us were like, we're fucked now. It's like,
And I didn't see it coming back anytime soon. Then then they reopened places, but you had to wear a mask. And then it became the vaccine passports. And that was going on throughout. Joe Biden said this is a pandemic of the unvaccinated and started just going through that whole nonsense.
By the way, I survived my winter of death and destruction.
I did too.
I survived. By the way, never got COVID. 3 years. I haven't been sick in 3.
Look at
I
you.
haven't even been sick in 3. I'm not even exaggerating. I only have my own internal problems, like my body's failing me. But
my mind is going, but not the rest of my body.
Outside sources. I haven't been sick in 3 years, and I travel the country doing comedy. I've been everywhere, not wearing a mask. I mean, I had it when I was on a plane and stuff like that for that brief period of time, right? But like you couldn't fly. Yeah. But and by the way, I don't wash my hands. I wash my hands when I shit, and I wash my hands like there's visible dirt and stuff in my hands. Other than that, I don't, because I think growing up in Staten Island next to a literal dump, not kidding, like the Staten Island dump is like infamous for being a thing, and it's not there anymore. But when I was a kid, it was. I grew up 2 miles from it. We fucking played in shit. Like all that shit helped my immune system. I'm telling you. Don't just fucking I need antibacterial stuff in my hands all the time. You don't. You really don't. Wash your hands when you shit, because that's fucking disgusting. And then if you've been out in the fields working or like gardening, wash your hands before you eat. But if you're just going about your day and you're not touching the Penn Station subway rail, you're fine. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You're okay. But it's part of it though. I'm telling you. All this shit, all the extra cleanliness, it's part to break down your fucking immune system. So they could be like, oh, look, you're sick from COVID, or you're sick from this, or you're sick from that. I haven't been sick.
Yeah. And not only that, I mean, you're wearing a sleeveless shirt right now for people listening on the audio. You're in shape. Yet we have an obesity problem in this country. Yeah. Well, what has been the big thing in the last couple of years? If you get COVID and you're obese, you're probably not going to survive the way a normal, healthier person is. Yet at the same time, we have the body positivity movement where Lizzo can go out there and talk about how she's fat and beautiful and, beauty knows no shapes and sizes, everything. Everyone's beautiful. And you go, so what's the message here? The message is be fat and take our vaccine. Is what it is. You don't need to go to the gym. You don't need to go to Whole Foods and get some better food for you. Go out and have Burger King. Go eat in Dairy Queen all the time. Sit on your ass, jerk off, watch Netflix the whole time. And then when we tell you need a booster, go get a booster. Luckily, a lot of people are waking up and saying, Yeah, no, I think I am going to go get that gym membership right now. I don't need 7 shots a year.
No,
but and it's happening a lot sooner than I expected. I figured by 2025 maybe we'd start to see this reopening. But it's nice that 2+ years into this that people are saying, yeah, no, I'm done with this. I'm done.
The fat narrative is the thing I push back on a lot. Because you could get away with it more without like having the mob come after you as much, and like I'll fight that mob off more than the racial mob. It's a lot easier. But like I'm very much like, no, you're fat and disgusting. Actually, I don't think you're beautiful. I think like, by the way, do it. I'm a libertarian. Live your fucking life.
Yeah.
Don't fucking start saying how hot you are and how maybe someone might find you attractive, but let's be honest. General consensus doesn't think that. Okay, we don't. The 80s and 90s chick, that's what everybody still wants. Like the hot models. That's what everybody. That's true. That's beauty. I don't think fat's beautiful. I think it's fucking a health problem. I think it's fucking disgusting. Come after me. Fuck you guys. I don't care.
It's true though. I mean, the fat problem, we have this. I mean, who have died during COVID? Like, we passed 1 million deaths. Yeah,
old people and fat people.
Yeah.
Or if you have, what was it? I think they said 98% of deaths were like you had COVID and 2.7 or 2.5 comorbidities.
Yep. Yeah.
So if you were just like,
I think it was like 3. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So if it was like you or me who got it, the survival rate was 99% or something like that, or 98.7%. But if you didn't, it was like 98% the other way. Well, what does that fucking tell you, man? Try eating something green that's not, from a fast food place. Like, just stop eating fast food. Stop eating. It's fucking terrible for you. Yep. Terrible for you. I can't even tell you the last time I fucking had like a fast food place. But I know, Wendy's, like a month ago, I was on the fucking road. And of course, you're like, this is literally the only thing open. And I am going to pass out if I don't eat something. I ate one burger and I shit my fucking brains out. Because it's bad for you.
Now,
and if you don't eat it all the time, that's what's going to happen to you.
I do like fast food, but it's a balance. Is that every time, like tomorrow, when I go to New York and I'm driving there through Pennsylvania, I'm going to go to a Wawa.
Oh, you might drive. Wait, are you past my house?
Maybe. No, I'm not going up through Philly. I think I'm taking 80 all the way.
Oh, we'll talk off camera.
Okay.
All right. I'm curious where you're going. Yeah.
So like what? So I do like Wawa. I like their
Philly, Wawa is like
chicken Philly.
That's for Wawa, people who don't know the Jersey and Philadelphia or Pennsylvania area. Wawa's like Buc-ee's, I think, is a place in the South, right? That they have. I've heard it's like
Buc-ee's,
to Wawa.
Stuckey's, Sheetz, Get Go, all those kind of places.
So it's kind of like a upscale gas station food, essentially. Is what Wawa.
Yeah, it's made to order food. You go there, and it's essentially. I don't even think I've ever gotten gas at a Wawa. I've just gone in.
I do. It's cheap as fuck.
Yeah. So I go there and I'm going to eat a chicken Philly and go, boy, was that really good. But now I need to spend a little bit more time in the treadmill. So it's about the balance. It's about trying to.
But you'll go work out. That's the thing. How many people just will eat that and then eat that again and then eat that again and then eat that again? And it's 3 meals a day for them too. And like, by the way, I go out to eat all the time with my wife, but like we go to like a restaurant where like, I can make that shit in my house if I wanted to. And it's the same thing. Like, it's not like just in a deep fryer that's not cleaned by a bunch of dumb 14-year-olds who are running shit, So it's like, yeah, I'm not saying don't go out to eat. I love going out to eat. It's one of my favorite things to do is go out to eat, but not fucking fast food. Like, again, unless you're doing it like you, it's like, hey, I'm going to eat this, but I'm going to go fucking work out for 3 hours. It's like, yeah, fine.
You have to balance it out. And it really is also like your immune system is that it is every so often you got to introduce yourself to grease because you need to respond to it for whenever you do, like, if you shit it out like that. I mean, it's going to be one of those cases of, wow, my body is not agreeing with this. Well, yeah, your body's telling you something. And when your body is telling you, get off your ass and do something. Otherwise, if somebody coughs 2 miles away that has COVID, you might get COVID. And you're able to fight it off. But, my favorite part about the body positivity movement is when they start attacking actresses or models who used to be fat, who aren't anymore. And they say, thank God I did this. I should have done this years ago. And they're like, fuck you. Are you deserter, traitor? It's like, yeah, traitor. Somebody like Adele who wants to eat healthy a little bit. Say like, wow, I'm actually getting like attractive men. I'm courting them right now.
Adele's hot now.
Yeah, she's pretty good.
By the way, she was even as a bigger girl, like you tell she always had a pretty face.
Oh yeah.
But again, just like what I said 10 minutes ago or 5 minutes ago, it's like Yeah, you had a pretty face, and you're fucking gross and ugly because you're fucking fat. Sorry, but now, oh, look at that, you lost weight, you look good, you're hot now. That's how it goes.
Yep.
That's how it goes. Sorry, you're not gonna lie to me with these Calvin Klein ads, like the fucking fat chick who's like her shirt's out to here. She's like, I'm fucking hot. Nah, man, you'll be dead next year.
Mm-hmm.
I won't though. So
well, it's about choice, and it's about making those proper choices that kind of work. And that leads me to my next topic: is all the the trans stuff that's going on. And again, we're both libertarian in that if you're 18 and you feel the need that you want to chop your balls off and you want to lop your tits off and whatever God bless you. I hope you're happy. I hope whatever makes you happy. I'm not going to think it's normal, but I want you to be happy the rest of your life. And if this is what it takes, now statistics show that's not all that's going on, that you have deep-seated issues that are going on, that if you're a guy who becomes a woman, that's not going to cure your happiness. Some of them do, but not all of them.
The percentage is so low. In fact, I think suicide attempts are like 80% or something like that, or 80%. It's
but they make it seem like it's because they're getting bullied by people. And it's like, no, it's not the case. It's deep-seated depression. But then now the attacks on the children of saying that kids can understand when they're 2 years old that they can be a different gender and this and that. And you're like, no. This is why I was 24 when I got my first tattoo. This is why you wait. When you're 25, you're able to rent a car. And the reason that the alcohol, as much as it seems pretty arbitrary, you're 21 because you're a little bit closer to making better decisions with your life than you were at 18.
Right.
I not necessarily agree with that, but I get what the thinking is behind it. I don't get telling 5-year-olds that they can be trans and breastplates and hysterectomies and all this stuff. And this is, you want to talk about when they say, oh, we're about freedom. You come to California, you can get an abortion here and you can be trans and this. But if you're also a libertarian, you say, isn't this an attack on the non-aggression principle? Because if you're under 18, you don't really know any better. And if your parents have this Munchausen by proxy and are taking you to these children's hospitals to take your uterus out, I mean, that's child abuse there.
Those parents should be fucking put down.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's how I feel about that. Like, I don't. Here's another thing too, that because children to me are the number one priority in the world, especially our country, because they should be protected at all costs. They are innocent, and any crime against a child or an animal, it's worse than against an adult, because like it's true innocence, right? Like animals they don't know any better, neither do children. So for you as an adult, male or female, to impose your adultness on that and take advantage of it makes you the legitimate scum of the earth, and you should be buried under the planet. Like I have no remorse for you. I don't care. I'm a non-offending pedophile. You too. You got to go too, because the chance of it happening is fucking high. I don't give a fuck. I'm at my wit's end with all this bullshit. I will protect children at all costs. And if that comes down to like, you're not a libertarian, bro, don't care. I'm sick of that shit too. These fucking watch my mouth. These libertarians who are like, oh, it's every libertarian. It's their kids. I don't give a fuck. So you're telling me if I'm watching an adult beat the shit out of his child, I should just be like, well, it's his kids. I'll let him just not put him into a coma. It's the same fucking thing. It's the same fucking thing. You're endangering your child for life. It is irreversible. And all these fucking doctors are like, no, it's not. They should be fucking put down too. All of them. I'm very fucking serious. And like, I have fantasies of doing it, but it's like we have to protect these fucking kids. I watched my 5-year-old cousin pick up a toad and try to shove it in the dog's asshole. You're telling me that kid knows what gender he is or what? He doesn't know shit. He's a fucking dumb kid, and that's what they're supposed to be, dumb and do kid shit.
You're supposed to do dumb things. We don't want kids to grow up too soon. Yet at the same time, we're having like 40-year-olds stand in line with lightsabers for Star Wars movies. And it's like everybody's supposed to be 17, 18 years old. Like the 5-year-olds have to be 18 and the 40-year-olds have to be 18. It's all Peter Pan. But since you're like into conspiracy theories, what do you think is do you think there's an underlying goal here?
To legitimize pedophilia.
Okay.
100%.
Because that's what I thought too.
100%. It's 100% what it is.
When you heard all those televangelists back in the late 80s, early 90s.
Oh, we owe them an apology. we do. The slippery slope thing is real. It's a fucking real thing. And I was even like, I don't know. No, they're right. no, I don't want this fucking. How do I say this without just getting shit on? Because like I don't. Once you start allowing degeneracy in society openly, that's the fall of society. Yeah. And read between the lines what I'm trying to say.
I get you. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
When they start talking about that slippery slope of like, well, you know, once you normalize homosexuality, they're going to come for the kids. And yeah, I was guilty of it too, of that. Okay, look, that's a little much of a stretch. Yeah. You know, if gay people, whatever they want, whatever, two consenting adults, we went through that. Mm-hmm. And then what's been going on the last couple of years is you had Cuties on Netflix. There was
who they try to spin it as like, look, we're showing you it's bad. No, you're not. No. No, you're not. You're sexual. And they go, oh, only you would fight. That means you must be a pedophile. No, twerking and stuff is already it's already been adapted as that's a sexualized move by adult women. So when a child does it, they're emulating an adult woman trying to be sexual. You're not going to trick me. I'm not retarded.
No,
you know what I'm saying? I'm not a progressive lefty. I have a brain. So I could go, no, that's projection. You're a pedophile. There you go. So easy that was. You're not going to fool me. Like it's that simple.
It really seems like that has been the goal over time of, you know, let's normalize this to the point. Right? I remember back in the day of NAMBLA, where they would say, oh, it's national, you know, the man, boy, love, whatever.
North Atlantic Man, Boy, Love Association.
Yeah, I was like, what's the matter with that and everything? It's like, no, there is a problem. It's pedophilia. You're normalizing this. And those groups kind of went away. And then all of a sudden now this groundswell of why can't children do this? Why can't a kid do this?
Now they're saying they're not pedophiles. They're MAPs. Minor attracted person. Cool. Under the fucking planet, they go too. All of them. Like all of them gotta go. You gotta go. It's annoying because like if you took it into your own hands, you'd be thrown in prison, right? Obviously, but like all these fucking people could fucking rip the dicks off their children and pump them with, and they just get to walk around freely without like fear of repercussion, and it fucking sickens me. And that's why I'm like, oh, we're collapsing as a society. And I hope I die before it fully goes. Like,
when you have rapists that are in prison and then, you know, they're about to give them a hefty jail sentence and they say they identify as a woman, so they get a lesser sentence. You go, you scumbags, you fucking people.
But like, by the way, I don't blame those guys. It's not their fault. It's the government's fault.
Yeah.
I'd be like, I'm a woman. Tell me I'm not. You're racist.
That's going to be the name of this episode, by the way. It's called The Government's Fault. That's what it's going to be. It's just that's all I'm going to put. The government's fault.
Government's fault. But it is.
It's unbelievable.
It's trash. It's absolute trash. And like that's my number one issue is protecting children. Animals is like a close second.
Yeah.
Because again, innocent. I don't care about adults as much anymore. Unless like I identify with or I align with you, because we need freedom fighters. But like if you're just again this fucking progressive lefty adult, like I'm fuck you, fall to a volcano, dude. I don't really give a shit what happens to you. I don't, but I want to protect your kids. That's what I do want.
With the Dobbs decision back in June, when that went down, is that you started seeing all these feminist dudes and these women say like, "No, I'm gonna go get a hysterectomy. I'm get my uterus taken out," and I'm like, okay, agree there.
When the Roe v. Wade thing came down and you had all these guys who are like, I'm going to get vasectomies to fucking be good. Stop breeding. Stop. I don't want any more of your gene pool. Thank you. You're actually doing us a service. Thank you.
Yeah, your parents were the problem we got into this situation in the first place.
Well, which again, I never read The Calling of the American Mind until recently, but I was saying a theory I had and they're like, that's from the book. I was like, well, I didn't know that. So to be fair, I thought of this also. But I was saying, our generation's parents were boomers, and they parented like, listen, my parents loved me, and they did not, definitely didn't throw me to the like curb or like they were involved in my life, but they let me make mistakes. They let me learn life lessons. They didn't helicopter parent me. They were like, yeah, go out, you might get fucked up, like you know, if you say some shit, but we'll be here to tell you why you fucked up. You know, there wasn't like this constant overbearingness. Then you look at Gen X, which is the generation right above us, right? So they're too young, or we're too similar for them to be our parents. They were more like our older cousins and brothers and stuff right there, right? But because they didn't like how the early boomers treated them. Because the early boomers were like, I don't even want to fucking see you. Right? Like my parents
summer camp and
right. Like my parents were the second boomer generation, which is a little lighter. But like the first boomer generation is the Gen X parents, and they were a lot harder on their kids. And I think when they had kids, right, it was this overcorrection. It was like, well, I don't want to be my parents, so I'm gonna fucking do everything for my kid.
That's where the participation trophy stuff started coming out.
And instead of like, hey, oh, that kid talks shit, go fight him. It was like, go tell an adult. Go tell me. I'll tell an adult. It was always look for an authority figure. Don't handle it on your own. So now who's that? Gen Z.
Yeah.
Gen Z is where's a teacher? But now they're adults. So it's where's a cop? Where's a politician? It's not like, oh, I got to handle this. There's none of that. As opposed to you and me, where I'm 35. It's like, no, I handle everything myself. I don't look for anybody. I don't look for a fucking soul to do it. I got it.
It's the repercussions. That's what's happened is that, but hopefully I'm hoping there's a white pill in Gen Z looking at our generation, the older millennials, the ones born in the 80s, and saying like, God, you guys are just a bunch of douchebags.
Yeah.
Like, you guys are fucked up. Like you care about purple hair and you, what? It's like, I'm hoping that they start becoming like, I hope all the boys become Nick Fuentes is what I'm talking about. I hope they all start just waking up and rebelling against what we were seeing in the last few years of what had popped up. And, some of those, like you said, the older Gen Xers that said, we don't want to treat our kids the way our parents treated us. So that overcorrection, maybe there's an overcorrection to the overcorrection. That's what I'm hoping for.
Well, yeah. Well, just like all youth rebels against their parents, eventually these guys, and you do see it. It's just they're scared to openly talk. Like I have cousins who are younger than me, and I'll talk to them at parties, some family parties, be like, yo, what do you guys, you guys are like 15, 16, like what's going on in your schools? Like, what are you guys talking about? Like, I'm trying to get, like, are they trying to push the shit on you? And like, yeah, but like, we think it's goofy. like they're just like straight up like, it's fucking dumb as shit. We just ignore it. I was like,
they've made books like, because it's all the woke stuff. Instead of reading about like good literature, they're reading about like, oh, a strong woman, a strong trans, this. And if anything, it's made them go like, books are gay. I don't want to read books.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, okay, so again, the NFL was on yesterday. Week 1, 8 months. Everybody waits 8 months for the NFL to come up. ESPN was live tweeting during all the NFL games, WNBA coverage.
Mm-hmm.
Go read the comments.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone's like, football's on. Football's on. Who cares? Football's on. Even if football wasn't on, who cares? Like, it's okay. I'm working on this new bit, and not to do bits on podcasts. That's fucking gay, but it's just the point. I'm not even gonna do the bit, but the point out is I looked at the numbers for WNBA viewership for 2021 across all platforms. It was like 370,000 people. The Puppy Bowl averages 2.1 million viewers.
Yeah. No, people love the bitches, don't they?
It's like, and then it's like I could also miss three free throws and fucking not be able to dunk.
Well, it's like, I love that one because I've talked about that a lot. Is people want to see the best of the best. They don't want to see an inferior product. Why is so you're outside of Philly? Why are the Trenton Thunder? Why is it so
I drive by that stadium all the time.
Why is it so much less to go see them than it would be to go to a Phillies game?
Or the Yankees.
Or the Yankees. It's because you're seeing an inferior product. Now, it's a good product. You're seeing professionals. They're just not ready for prime time. They're not ready to be a Yankee, a Philly, a Met, whatever. And it's the same as the WNBA. I'm not saying that there aren't good basketball players, but comparatively speaking, it's just like everyone talking about Serena Williams. Yeah, Serena Williams is great against other women.
Oh, yeah. She got housed by like the 1,000th ranked college kid.
Yep.
Because it's a man. It's that simple. It's like, it's the truth. It's sorry. But that's how it is. It's like, yeah, Serena is great. But every top, what's his face, Nadal would fucking smash her teeth in.
It's meritocracy. Well, sports should be the ultimate form of meritocracy. And it is in a lot of ways, because you don't see a lot of people like you and me playing in the NBA. It's just, that's the thing. It's
like, I was pretty fucking good at football. Like I played semi-pro. I played at a pretty high level, but it's like, hey, not good enough to go to the NFL,
Mhm.
not good enough to play D1 football. And
I was recruited to play college baseball, and it just I couldn't throw 95 or over
Right.
miles an hour, and they're not going to look at me. So I'm like, all
Exactly.
right, I guess I'm just going to play beer league softball now.
That's what I did. It was football. Same thing. Same, but just different. It's like, hey, clearly I was good, but my physical, I'm only 6 feet, 100 something pounds at the time. I was like 205, but like, I was like that. Clearly I got a partial D2 scholarship from New Haven. I wound up not going to, but like, again, it's like, yeah. Am I sitting here being like, well, I should be in the NFL? No, clearly I shouldn't be in the NFL. That time's gone. I wasn't good enough. And that's life, dude. I played to my level. I played the best of my level I could.
And what happens is we decided in a lot of areas of life that no, we don't need to look at merit. We need to look at checking boxes. We need to look at ESG. We need to look at affirmative action. That's why essentially this presidency that we have in the White House right now, it's all across the board. It's why is Pete Buttigieg? Why is he, who is the failed mayor of not even the biggest town in Indiana, in South Bend, Indiana?
But how do you fuck Notre Dame's there? How do you fuck that up?
Well, because people don't even care about South Bend. They go to Notre Dame, they go to the bookstore, they buy a T-shirt, and then they keep driving to Chicago after that.
Right.
and he still didn't do a good job. Why is he there? If he were Pete Buttigieg married to a woman, he's still the mayor of South Bend, Indiana, but he's gay. Why is Karine Jean-Pierre? Why is she the press secretary? Is it because she's very good at her job? No, it's because she's black, she's female, she's gay, and I think she's an immigrant or something. I don't know, but she checks all the boxes except for the fact that she can't do her job.
Right.
So we as society need to look at sports as a form of meritocracy, but we decided meritocracy is sexist, it's racist, it's this and that. It goes against everything that we believe in as society. I'm like, no, actually, it's everything we believe in as society. Everything should be based on merit. And if there's a pattern like, I don't know, Asians seem to test better when it comes to entrance exams, instead of me as a white person saying, I'm really offended, why are all these Asians getting into Harvard? Maybe I need to step up.
We have to get better.
I need to be smarter.
We have to learn more. Exactly. We have to study hard. It's on us. It's not on them.
If more black guys are playing in the NBA, is it because they're racist against white people? Or do I need to work harder in the gym and start shooting baskets better and work on my fundamentals and everything? And then maybe that I could have a shot of getting to another level. Sure, but I didn't work as hard and I pay the price. That's what it should be. But we decided to throw merit out the window in form of what's essentially affirmative action.
It's like that Bill Burr bit, right? He's like, why watch WNBA when you have LeBron James dunking from center court over some dude's face? It's like, yeah, I'm going to watch that all the time. Over, again, missed layup after missed layup after missed layup. It's like, gives a fuck. Yeah. It's so dumb. Yeah, well, sports is the ultimate I can't say the word now. Jesus Christ.
Meritocracy.
Yeah, it's all nonsense, dude. Everything's a fucking push for an agenda, and none of it's off actual work. It's like real work and working hard is discredited now.
Yeah,
it's like, oh, you worked hard. Well, that guy's black. Okay.
Okay,
so
great.
He gets it. So yeah. Okay, it's fucking crazy.
Well, speaking of hard work, and we can wrap up the podcast getting here, is wanted to talk about the hard work that the Mises Caucus is doing in the Libertarian Party. So for people who don't know about the Mises Caucus, it's relatively new, but the Libertarian Party celebrated 50 years this past year, right? It's the 50th anniversary.
So. Yeah.
And traditionally the Libertarian Party, they're not even the Washington Generals, that they've had these ideals and ideas that a lot of people really agree with. And I think across the board, I think a lot of people do like libertarian concepts. It's just, we are a binary society. We like either or. But every time I want to really get behind the Libertarian Party, which I think you're probably in the same boat. I got into libertarian politics because of the great Ron Paul.
Yep.
And then because of Ron Paul, I was introduced to Hoppe, I was introduced to Rothbard, I was introduced to
don't forget Hoppe's a racist.
Oh yeah, Hoppe is a racist, and Rothbard had racist tendencies, and yeah, of course, yeah. Read a couple of pages in his book, and you'd be really offended by Hoppe. But when you start looking at the Libertarian Party, and then you notice that there were a lot of failed Republicans and Democrats that ended up kind of overtaking. You had the Bill Welds, you had the Gary Johnsons that started. Even Joe Jorgensen was just. It just seemed very co-opted. It seemed very, very disappointing for somebody that, especially in 2020, when you needed somebody who was going to be a strong libertarian to put these ideals out, and instead she's out there on Twitter talking about wear your mask and Black Lives Matter. I'm like, yeah, this ain't it. This ain't it.
Right.
But luckily, especially recently, when you're seeing Angela McArdle and a lot of others big in the libertarian movement taking over and getting rid of and pushing out these left-leaning libertarians, because again, I don't think you can be a left-winger and a libertarian. It's just it's kind of, it's not 2008 animore. I think it's either or, and I think you could be a conservative libertarian or more like what I would more consider myself as a paleo conservative. Because I think there's a lot of like Buchananisms and everything that have crossed over. But the way I look at what the Mises Caucus is doing is it's injecting new life in the party. It's injecting new life in these areas. And they're building, like we said at the beginning of the podcast, from the ground up.
Yeah. And like here in, well, I don't know if you saw Virginia just threw a coup. The LP Virginia just threw a coup and dissolved.
Oh, they did? Okay.
Yeah. And they just dissolved, which I mean, again, they have no right to do that, and like, you know, because they're scumbags. But it's like that thing of like the same people who said we were gonna pick our ball and go home when we lost. Well, we just worked harder and won, and then they're literally, again, it's all projection. Because I consider them lefties. I don't consider them libertarians. They're progressives and in libertarians' clothing, right? So, and what do progressives do? Well, they cry and they bitch and they fucking sabotage. They don't actually work harder because they don't know what that means. They don't know what working hard means. They're fucking cowards. I had a guy in the PA party who fucking all these guys went. I don't know if you heard what happened in PA with a bunch of them broke up and formed the Keystone Party.
Yeah, I remember this. Yes.
Yeah. So you have all these people, and they're still in the LP, like certain LP chats. I'm like, you guys are officially part of another party now. Let it go. You lost, and you quit. We didn't kick you out. Well, we kicked two of them out because they were fucking threatening people. But like, outside of that, like, you all just decided to quit. And I had them all on my podcast when they were running for like for LPPA chair and stuff like that. And I asked them all, I said, if you lose, would you stay and help? And they all went, yep. Okay. Yep. And I said that on purpose to catch them I knew they'd be lying. You know, that's why I let them into that question. But no, they're all cheating, lying scumbags, all of them. And the Mises Caucus brings that out in them. And it shows them like, this is what hard work gets you. Actual followers and actual like a following and a charge and like energy and a new life into the party. And like, oh, we're making waves. LPNH is fucking tweeting out fuck Meghan McCain and all this shit. It's great. Like, where was that shit 4 years ago? Oh, because you guys want to be part of the regime because you're actual progressive lefties. And you have a few neocons in there, but mostly progressive lefties, right? So it's like, that's what you want. You just want to be part of the regime. You want to be part of the Green Party. You want to be part of the fucking progressive left. You don't give a fuck about freedom. You don't give a fuck. When you know they care more about if you say gay or not than about actual freedom, you know where they align.
Yeah. Yeah. Remember, they would always say libertarians are just Republicans who smoke pot. I think it's the opposite. I think the left libertarians, the lawbirds, as we call them, they're just progressives who smoke pot. Yeah. And also because libertarians are cool people, that we're fun people and they're fun hangs. So we could all get together. You talk sports, you talk, about any insanity that's going on, but then you realize, oh, you're still a progressive at heart. That's why you're here. And that's why they're all pissed off that the Mises Caucus is they're sweeping through the country. And again, not major races is talking about like a Senate but you're talking about the ground level and getting people involved locally, because that's what it ultimately comes down to. Who gives a fuck about who's the president?
Right. It doesn't matter.
It's who's running your school board. Mm-hmm. It's who's the county sheriff. Those are the races we need to start focusing on. And that's what the Libertarian Party, and that's what, getting back to that, the beginning of what we mentioned about the 10,000 Liechtensteins, is that's a Hoppe term, and that's starting from people from the ground up and building out. And I'm very happy to see that, especially what you've heard in the last year of all these school board races that have been flipped. That these people talking about chest plates for children and not allowing
all the mask stuff, masking kids. That was
the mask and the vaccine stuff, and telling parents that they have no say in if a child decides he wants to be transgender or not. All those a lot of those school boards have been cleaned out, and new presidents and new council and everything. That's a good sign.
But don't forget, they fought tooth and nail to not have that. They were getting people arrested in school board meetings.
Yes, domestic terrorists.
It's Gestapo shit. It's actual Gestapo shit. Like, they're using the police in their favor to remove a dissidents in their eyes, quote unquote. You know what I'm saying? And it's fucking disgusting. So yeah, but again, it's like just like all these people, but they're getting away with it. That's a problem. Like, yeah, okay, they're not in their position anymore, but like, you got away with it. No repercussions. The Uvalde police, they're laughing in the hallways as children are being slaughtered. Why are they lined up against the wall? I don't understand. Where's their crime and punishment? Like, everybody gets away with it. And then we're the ones who are like holding the bag now, being like, oh, okay, well, how do we fix this?
Yeah.
You know, and again, they're just like, I don't know. And then you get to run away again with zero repercussion.
Well, that's where, and I guess the final thing I'll mention here, because it relates to everything. And I think I mentioned this to you on the podcast last year, but there's been more talk of people, and even on the left, you're hearing it, is the term national divorce. And I mention it in almost every podcast. It's so weird because I'll go through all the news items, and at the end, I'm like, the only thing I keep coming back to is, I am not going to see eye to eye with somebody who has purple hair, lives in Portland, Oregon, who's still wearing their mask right now, who puts up a Black Lives Matter thing and a Pride Progress flag, which, of course, the Pride Progress flag is probably going to be something different next year because this one's not going to be inclusive.
By the way, I feel bad for all the gay men and women out there who are just like, I'm just gay. Like, I just want to be like, like, their movement got taken over too by progressive bullshit. And like, I see more and more gay dudes and women who are like, hey, stop the kid shit. Stop this right now. This is fucking crazy. What are we doing? The Gays Against Groomers on Twitter account. Like all that shit. It's like we need that. But they get shut down.
Just like you got shut down.
Being gay is not enough. I got shut down too.
How did you get shut down? I was telling you, I was trying to DM you on Twitter.
Yeah. So they said I was targeted abuse.
Okay.
I was shitting on politicians. I never made a threat. I never made a threat though. They just got me.
I got a ding the other day where it was Eric Swalwell.
That's exactly who I got banned on.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Because I said something like because that was when last week when they were talking about set your thermostats to 78 degrees. Yeah, I want to be in ball soup when I sleep. 78 degrees. And I said, yeah, you know what? I'm going to go to bed in my cozy Ohio home at 68 degrees because I don't live in your shithole state.
Right.
And I got a thing that said, do you sure you want to tweet this? Most users don't tweet something like this. I'm like, yeah, fuck off. I tweet it anyways.
That's fine. So it sucks. I had such a good following. I built up such a good following. And I had my name and I made a new account. And then that same fat loser from LPPA who took his ball and went home, he tagged Twitter support to get my new account banned because he's a fucking loser.
Oh, of course.
But you guys should go follow this other guy I found who's not me at all, at Tattooed Comic on Twitter. He's really funny, but not me. That's not me.
Send a follow request.
It's not me at all. But at Tattooed, I will. I'll tell him. At Tattooed Comic. Yeah, but it was all this Eric Swalwell tweet fucking thread that got me. But yeah, it's just bullshit. It's, again, silencing. That's all it was.
No, it's unbelievable. But that's where with that national divorce. If California, if you want to rip babies out, you want to be the Disneyland of ripping babies out and trans this and that. And I'm like, you do that. Again, if you're over 18, you do that, go to that side of the country. I'll be on this side where we have a little bit more sanity. Where I don't care what color you are. I want the best person for the job.
Exactly.
I don't care what it's like, I'm not going to aggress against you. I'm not going to do any of that. And that's where, Tom Woods has has an ebook called National Divorce. And it's kind of what's going on right now. It's what we need to do. As in an ideological divorce, is it two separate countries? Is it 50 separate countries? I don't know, but I think we'll figure it out once we finally get to that point.
Yeah, but they won't let us, right? They'll go to war with their own populace before they let that happen.
Good Lord. Well,
you know it. You know they will.
Yeah, it's true.
Look at the Civil War.
They'll just it'll be co-opted in a lot of ways. And
yeah,
it's sad, but Well, hey, Adam, we're, as we say, up against, I know you got other podcasts today.
I
Plugs. I do want to go, since I'm driving to New York, I'm going to listen to that Woodrow Wilson podcast.
Yeah, it was great.
I think that's fantastic.
It was the one right before. I just had Clint and Reed on, and it was one right before that. That was a fun one
excellent.
Too. Yeah, Clint and Reed, they're great.
I got to have them on. I had Tho Bishop on. I did a 2-parter with him. That was a fantastic podcast.
Yeah, actually, I want to get Tho on too at one point, talk to him about some shit. But he doesn't follow me on Twitter anymore. That's gone. So, go listen to my podcast. If you guys just want comedy and no political stuff, go listen to The Cult of Us. I do with the great Neil Wood. That's available everywhere. YouTube.com/Cult of Us. And then for the Porcupine, that's obviously my libertarian stuff. So the Porcupine, YouTube.com/Adam Nutter for my comedy for the Porcupine. Also, audio is available everywhere. Go check that shit out. Catch me on the road, wherever the fuck. I'll be in Florida, October 21st and 22nd. Catch me there and other places. So follow me on Instagram @Adam Nutter and go follow that other guy on Twitter @Tattooed Comic. That's not me.
Not you at all. Of course
not me at all. It's just a really funny guy who I found who I think spreads a good message.
Excellent. Well, got the plugs out there. Well, Adam, thanks so much for being a part of this. Yeah, let's talk off the air about
for sure.
Heading over to, because I was looking for places to stay, and everything is just insane. New York is back, baby, but it's all about the prices. So yeah, we'll chat off the air. But thanks everybody for checking out the Check Your Brain podcast. Again, patreon.com/Tony Mazur, TonyMazur, $5 a month. That's all it is if you were listening for free. And it's more of this. It's that. It's sports. It's football, politics, comedy, anything like that. So as I always say, if you don't like this podcast, you might like the next podcast. That's how I always kind of treat it. So check it out at patreon.com/Tony Mazur for Adam and myself, Tony Mazur. Thanks everyone for listening, and we'll talk to you folks throughout the week.